Hi, so what we have here is one of the Squier Classic Vibe 70s precision basses. Now what's a G&L guy like me doing talking about a Squier? Well, it's a great fun bass, and it turns out they're made in the same shop in Indonesia as G&L's offshore label, the Tribute series. The G&L Tribute's a little bit more high-end than this guy here. It's got a nicer bridge like the Leo Fender's saddle lock bridge that makes a huge difference. However, I want to talk about the Squier because it's really a fantastic bass for a little less money, and it does everything you'd ever want from a 70s vibe precision, Now the Squier series, this Classic Vibe, a lot of them aren't exact replicas of what you might find, but sometimes they take a lot of the 70s type features in this case and package them into one deal here. Now, the interesting thing here is we have a maple neck, which was very, very common for Fenders in the 70s, but you see these block inlays in the binding, which is something you wouldn't actually see on a precision bass unless it was some special order. But you saw them on the jazz basses as standard. So this is kind of like a jazz bass neck on a precision with this classic black on black. Is a common look in the 70s. When CBS took over Fender, they didn't keep much of the custom colors that were popular in the 60s as a cost-cutting measure, as what happened with a lot of CBS. It was a lot of cost-cutting measures, so that was one of them, to simplify the color choices. But this is a very typical look, except you have what looks like a jazz bass style neck on a precision. Okay, let's talk about the body materials, because this is a little bit different. This body is made from a wood called NATO, which is basically an eastern version of mahogany. It's grown, I think, locally in Indonesia, or at least over that side of the world, and it has very similar tonal properties to mahogany. And I really like this thing because it has a little bit different sound than the typical ash or alder body Fenders that you get. I'm going to demonstrate it a bit, but it has a real clarity, a little less bottom, but it has a real clarity, and it resonates beautifully, and has a tremendous amount of sustain here. Great sustain on this thing. I kept this stock, except I had one of these Fender high mass bridges kicking around, so what the heck, I put it on. It didn't really need it. I have to admit, when I changed it, it didn't really affect the sound that much on this particular one, because it was already sounding great already. Okay, I'm going to do a couple of sound demos now. Really, the only thing we can manipulate is the tone control on this guy. So we'll start full up. Now with the tone at 50%. And the tone all the way off. Now, one of the classic things from the 70s was bass players would use a pick a lot. And a maple neck precision bass was just such a great bass to have with a pick. And so I'm going to do some sound examples with that. So here we are with the pick and the tone all the way up. 50%. And the tone all the way off. Now, that was with playing kind of around the pickup here, a little closer to the bridge, maybe with a little bit of muting. Now, how about if we go up by the neck, a little bit more like some of the progressive rock players might have played. So that was with the tone all the way up. Now at 50%. And then tone all the way up. Now let's put the tone back up all the way and do a little bit more aggressive thing down low. So here we are again, the Squier 70s Vibe precision bass. And it's a fantastic little bass for, $560 at your local Canadian retailer.